With that, I will turn to the ranking member, and then we will hear from the Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Secretary Moniz, it is a pleasure to see you again, and appreciate this opportunity to discuss the President's fiscal year 2016 budget request for the Department of Energy. Overall, I'm pleased that the proposal calls for more than a 9% increase over last year, and the President's proposal demonstrates a strong commitment to investments that we need to build a competitive innovation energy economy. As the overview of this budget highlights, the Department is entrusted with 4 critical responsibilities. 1, maintaining our nuclear arsenal and playing a key role in our nonproliferation activities around the globe, protecting public health through a long-term commitment to cleaning up the legacy of nuclear weapons production. And it is often overlooked that those 2 responsibilities typically account for more than half of the DOE budget. And I should just say, as you know, we've discussed many times, Washington State is home to the Hanford Nuclear Reservation, one of the world's largest nuclear cleanup projects, and the people of my state fully expect the Department of Energy to honor its responsibilities to finish this job. And as Senator Murray noted in our budget discussions, that the budget contains some mixed news for Hanford in fiscal year 2016. While the Department is devoting significant resources to waste treatment plant and tank farms, there's concern that we may be giving some of the other cleanup priorities short shift. So we need to make sure that that the resources are there for DOE to live up to the commitment to clean up this waste. And it is also the case that workers at Hanford have been exposed to chemical vapors with uncertain health effects multiple times, and this is certainly unacceptable, so I appreciate your attention to this issue. It has been critical, and it is critical that we not only establish a process here that works with this department and this contractor, but that it also works in the future. And so very much appreciate the attention to that. But besides those 2 priorities, DOE is also responsible through your energy innovation agenda for transitioning to a low-carbon energy future and to providing the backbone for our nation's research economy. I want to commend you for the strong commitment to the advanced energy agenda reflected in the President's budget. This is a research community that has made much of the revolutionary change in our energy economy possible. Wind and solar production have tripled since 2008. Gasoline consumption has dropped over 8% since 2005. The electricity grid is becoming more resilient with wider deployment of smart grid and distributed technologies. Gas prices are lower now, but we know they won't stay that way permanently. So DOE and the labs like the Pacific Northwest Lab and many others have led the way in developing transportation alternatives such as advances in engine technologies, lightweight materials, battery technologies, biofuels, all critical to ensuring that consumers are better insulated from price fluctuations in oil and gasoline that regularly cause hardships. The research and development and deployment activities of the Department of Energy are driving economic transformation. I'm pleased to see that the proposed increase in the Department's Office of Electricity include a 94% increase in smart grid R&D, 75% increase for energy storage, and 133% increase in infrastructure security and energy restoration, and a strong commitment to cybersecurity research and development. Similarly, I'm pleased that the 42% increase proposed for the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, which is shepherding innovations in everything from building efficiencies to drop-in biofuels to new fuel cell applicants. So this budget boosts the Office of Science a modest 5%, but we make sure that we are continuing to invest in our key innovation infrastructure, which is fundamental to the advances in a low-carbon energy technology, and we need to build on our recent track records of success. I think the key thing that we want to get across about the budget is the energy transformation currently underway in our country is having a profound effect on our competitiveness as an economy. Decoupling the growth in our economy from energy growth is like ushering in a new era of energy productivity. So for decades, American energy consumption increased as the economy grew. In the past 7 years, however, we have dramatically decreased that trend. From 2007 to 2014, our economy grew over 8%. At the same time, energy consumption actually fell by 2.5%. So this represents a dramatic decrease in our energy productivity. And by contrast, during the same period, 2000 and 1990 to 2000, our GDP growth of 40% was linked to growth in the U.S. energy consumption of 17%. So this recent decrease in the demand for energy represents billions of dollars of savings to American families and to businesses each year, resources that can be spent or invested in other areas of the economy. So delinking economic growth from one of the most expensive inputs to it, energy, will help us to continue America's improved competitiveness for the future. I also want to say I'm pleased that the budget will also continue our national commitment to the deployment of efficiency and renewable energy technologies. New clean energy technologies, renewable efficiencies, and natural gas generated over $50 billion of investment in 2014. And I look forward to the budget proposal would put significant emphasis on modernizing and strengthening our electricity grid. Although our nation's grid is vital to our economy and way of life, we need to make sure that it is even more efficient and resilient, and likewise serves as a platform for innovation. We've made good progress as a country in improving this, but now is the time to expand our existing efforts to integrate our technologies that will transform more energy transformation and distribution. One of the new programs in the budget would accelerate the replacement of outdated transformers and other important grid components with new technology, and this would make the grid more resilient, particularly in response to disruptions that could be caused by disaster or cyber attacks. So the program would also help state and local governments as they deploy new transmission and energy storage systems to the 21st century. So, Mr. Secretary, finally, I just want to say I look forward to your upcoming release of the quadrennial review for energy, and I expect that we'll have a chance to take an even broader look at the challenges we face that can't be done in just one budget year, but I look forward to working with Chairwoman Murkowski and my colleagues here on the committee to ensure that the Department of Energy continues to play a vital role in meeting our nation's challenges. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, you know we've had multiple conversations about the reoccurring events at Hanford, and wanted to, we've addressed this issue prior to your time, 2004, we had incidents in 2008, 2010. So 2014 are the newest round of these incidents. So every few years, we have concerns about worker safety and concerns that as the contractors roll over that we're starting again on making sure that we have implemented these kinds of reforms. So I certainly appreciate your engagement on this, but I want to make sure that you continue to take control of the situation, and that whatever is done under your leadership is actually institutionalized so that we don't have the same issues happening again. These incidents of exposure really are something we don't want to see again in the future. So specifically, what is DOE doing to implement these new procedures and change things from business as usual to a regime that will last no matter who the contractor is?
Thank you. Well, first of all, as you certainly know very well, with the latest round of incidents, we put together, I think, a very, very high-quality technical team, which I think has brought some new insights. Now we have an implementation plan. We are already implementing much of it. We have directed the contractor to implement all of the 40-plus recommendations. That'll be in 2 phases. All of those that we can implement now, we will. There are some that will take we estimate about a 2-year period to get more information before we execute. In terms of and the resource commitments to manage the vapors problem, we estimate at about $20 to $25 million in FY15 and likely doubling roughly in FY16. When it comes to institutionalization, my answer to that on any issue is perform. If one demonstrates high performance, that's the best way to institutionalize something. So that's our goal.
What about fines or something of that nature?
Well, that's all maybe part of a high-performance culture. We want to perform. We are happy to be judged on how we perform in terms of implementing the recommendations that have now come forward for implementation. And again, I think if we succeed, that will be the best way of institutionalizing the path forward.
Can I ask you about the Richland Operations Office? it was not funded as well as some of the other offices in the DOE complex. And it obviously has hit its milestones. And the problem, obviously, with the Hanford budget overall is everybody always looks at it and thinks that we can do with less, when in reality, as you pointed out in your testimony, the complexity of the problem in Hanford is so great. So the Richland office is currently cleaning up two of the most radioactive parts of the Hanford site, Building 324 and 61810 burial grounds. So what can you tell me about the timeline for the cleanup of these two specific sites, and what is going to be accomplished on these two projects in 2015?
Senator Cantwell, so first of all, as you've said, and I'll just repeat that of course, the overall site budget is increased in the request by roughly $100 million. At the Richland part of that, certainly there have been a number of accomplishments, and so we think the budget as requested will allow a strong program going forward. I'll have to get back to you on the specific timeline of that specific project, but I want to emphasize that with this budget, we will get the plutonium finishing plant, which has been judged to be, which at one point it was the highest risk project, down to slab this year. We will be continuing to remediate groundwater. So there's going to be a lot of progress. Oh, we will continue the tremendous progress that's been made in opening up the river corridor. So we believe that FY16 will be very, very strong progress. We'll get back to you on that specific timeline.
And put in there, what will DOE meet for the 2018 deadline for cleaning up the 618 burial, 10 burial site? That's. Okay. So we're obviously concerned about this reduction, and again, the priorities are so mammoth. We just want to make sure we're keeping progress. When I get to my next round, I'm definitely going to ask you about separating defense waste. So.
We'll turn to our ranking member, and we'll conclude the hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I want to add my thanks to your appearance here and details, and for the budget itself. I think it is a forward-looking perspective to our energy needs, and thank you for that. As some of my colleagues mentioned, they might do more. It reminds me of a few years ago when some of the leaders of industry, Bill Gates and the CEO of Cummings, came to all of us and said we should increase ARPA-E even more. So I think it's a valid point that we could be discussing in this budget overall. But I am going to submit a question for the record as it relates to the VIT plant and the natural gas pipeline. I think there's been some issues there about postponing the EIS, and so I'm going to submit something for the record, and if you could respond to that, about the timing of that, that would be quite helpful. I want to, you mentioned visits to people's states. We very much appreciate that, and want to offer, if you want to come out and look at the various science, human science studies that are being done in the Northwest, various activities. We would appreciate that. Wanted to get a sense of the DOE role. You had a major role in the Human Genome Project. What you're thinking about the brain and precision medicine efforts, and what DOE might contribute to that. That's why I would, welcome you to visit the Northwest on the life sciences issues there. Yeah.
Well, I'm aware. I'm certainly aware of the major push, University of Washington, Seattle, et cetera, in building up. I think Microsoft was involved in building up tremendous programs there. Thank you. I mean, for observing that. The department has made and is making tremendous contributions in life science, which are often not recognized. They are actually derivative of the original programs around radiation damage, and that then grew into genomics, et cetera. On the brain, and also a factoid that might be interesting is in our 4 large light sources, it's now up to about 40% of the use is actually life and medical science connected. So it's really a big deal. In terms of the brain, we have now for about a year been having discussions with Francis Collins. He actually initiated them. He is eager for the Department of Energy and our laboratories to play a role, and that's based upon 2 major areas: the expertise around sensors and, very sensitive measurement devices, but also, of course, around the large-scale computation capacity that we have. And of course, in the budget, the pushing to the next frontier of exascale high-performance computing is one of our also highlighted areas. One of the many applications can be in terms of a BRAIN initiative. But I'd love to have that discussion because, frankly, we're always, concerned about, mission and making sure that it's understood that this is an appropriate place for us to work. NIH is very eager for us to join that.
Thank you. And one last thing, last December, we were able to pass the Manhattan Project National Historic Park in Washington, New Mexico, and Tennessee. And part of that law requires the Department of Energy to enter into an agreement with the Department of Interior within a year to specify roles and how that will be administered. Can you tell me whether the department has begun that discussions with Interior, and when would you expect to have it finalized? By the end of this year?
The goal is for the end of this year, and in fact, I was just told this morning in my morning staff meeting that there'll be a meeting with the Park Service today to discuss that.
So you would expect that that would be completed by the end of this year?
Until I get a report, I'm a little bit reluctant to say I expect, but I know that that's the target, and we will try to meet that.
Well, within 1 year, you're supposed to specify.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is a requirement, so you will do it, and we very much appreciate getting this off the ground between the various agencies.
Yes.
So.
And of course, in the meantime, the visiting at Hanford and at Oak Ridge of Manhattan sites will continue in the normal way. The B reactor, for example, right?
Yes, but I don't think we're. Anyway, I think people would like, every time somebody puts out a proposal, like, here's the visiting hours, it's like taken up in seconds. That's the demand. People are chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
So it's not as if, some people aren't visiting. That's not the question. The question
Right.
is there's
No.
so much public demand that people view this as probably one of the most positive developments, and from the perspective of hearing the science story behind this is pretty incredible.
Good.
So anyway.
We're pursuing it.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. With that, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.